You're listening to Blind Shovel, an arts and music podcast. Today I speak with David Schoner, the Associate Director of the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. Hope you enjoy. Is already going. So
okay.
For black, I record everything for blackmail purposes.
Oh, that's fine. You go right ahead. Have a blast.
No, are you an artist? Have you ever been?
I am. I do photos. I've made movies. I'm not an artist. Maybe there's various different versions of what we would consider an artist, and I don't think you need to be put into a box. But there's something inside of the personality of an artist that is not like everyone else. And so your brother may have an artistic flair or artistic understanding, but from my knowledge of him, he's not an artist because artists function in a very different world, have a very different understanding. And I know this is not easily something that you box up, but
sure,
you think differently, you function differently. So I have accountant friends, I have lawyer friends, and they may call themselves at times artists, but it's not. There's a whole nother level in it. And I'm not properly articulating maybe it right now.
Yeah, well, that's
you,
why.
My friend, are clearly an artist. Your personality's an artist.
Okay.
You function as an artist. Your work is clearly of an artist.
Sure. I'll take that.
Okay.
But I think, I get very literal with the definition because it can be so slippery. So if you're currently making art, most of the time, or something creative in that sense, okay, you're an artist.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying as well, that it is more of a way of living, but that can get pretty abstract pretty quick. So would you say you're an artist?
So no.
No.
We're looking at and taking your version or your world of that, then I would say, no, I'm not an artist. I do art right now as a side hustle because I'm functioning in a business world. I think I'm functioning as a business world, but I'm very fortunate in a way because I coordinate filmmaking all the time in the States. So I'm always creatively figuring out and trying, how do I help filmmakers? And the thing that is always kind of tough for me in a way is I'm always working on everyone else's projects. Yes. I'm coordinating. So what I need to do to keep myself, and I use the term all the time, creatively sane, is I need to work on my own stuff because there's an artist inside of me that if I just was facilitating everyone else's work, I will not function. I need to create. And so right now, one of the easier ways for me to create art is through photography.
Yep.
And so I have loved that expression of art.
So when you were young, you were more straightforward an artist or interested in the arts?
I would say probably more straightforward. I was really big in photography. I'm not big in sculpture or those fine art parts of it, but definitely very interested in photography. And that's where my wheelhouse is.
Now, what do you technically do?
Full-time? Pays the bills?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the easiest way to explain that?
So the easy way to explain it is I work for the state of New Jersey, the Motion Picture Commission. And I am the coordinator, boots on the ground, moderator, mediator of anything that is going to be filming in New Jersey.
Anything.
I try to attract it to the state and then hold their hands while they're here to facilitate it to happen. Now, with that, it could be a big budgeted feature like Scorsese, like Spielberg, or it could be some students from NYU or from some high school. It doesn't matter. In that scope of what someone's creating, it's all about facilitation and feeding the art, feeding the craft.
And how long have you been doing that?
How long?
Yeah.
Since 1985.
And is it fair to say it's at a peak now in terms of?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to qualify, double asterisks, some couple crosses. So prior to the strike that happened last year with the Writers Guild and the actors, we were on an incredible high in the volume of work being created. And this year, we're kind of still recovering from it because even though this may date the podcast a tad bit, this coming up July 24, the Teamsters and the IA are doing contract negotiations. So things are a lot quieter right now.
So you've dedicated, was it almost 3 decades to this? 3 decades. And before this, what were you doing?
So before this, I was a student in college, and I would do a lot of photography. But I've always had that full-time job or a job that supplemented the ability to create.
You've never put the pressure on the work to make the money.
Never.
And what do you think about that?
In some ways, it turned out good as I've gotten older because it gives me the ability to have a little bit of the lifestyle that I want to have.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also is sometimes a little bit of a bad thing because you didn't fully flesh out where you want it to be or where you want it to go. But for me, I'm at this very happy medium in my life because also what I try to do big time is make sure that I am educating, inspiring, and also infusing young people to do and be what they need to be or they want to be. And so I don't know about your family, but my family is a very blue-collar family. No disrespect to anyone that's blue-collar. I get it, working class. My father broke his ass. My mother broke her ass. But having me in the family that was putting on plays at 14, I would put on a play, I'd rent a hall, put on a play, charge people. Doing that for 3 years, having my father build sets.
That's cool.
Doing a paper route and buying a Super 8 camera and a Super 8 projector and creating all these little short stories at 14, 15, 16. Pretty radical for a man who was a auto mechanic.
I could imagine.
And nowhere near in that circle of exposure would my father and mother ever be in that world, but they never said no.
Yeah, my experience wasn't too dissimilar. I wasn't like deeply encouraged or discouraged to be an artist, nor did I have many models to even understand what it meant. Like I went to school for illustration at UArts, and I chose that because I liked the illustrations you found in books. But that's not really what it is, and it isn't that, you know? And so for me, that process was mostly learning what I didn't want to do as an artist. Now I look around at even my nieces and nephews, and I think about often how they see how I can make money, and it's just wildly different. You know, my father's an accountant for roofing companies, and my mom's a teacher. My 4 brothers some of them are creative, but none of them are like straight up artists. So I like that innocence. A lot of the people I interview have the most interesting careers who didn't know there was a thing you could do. You know what I mean? Like you kind of had to make it up. It's less efficient now, or it is more efficient now, I would say.
Much more efficient.
You can get straight to the point.
You can absolutely, yes. That is the one thing that's happened societal? Yeah, that you can actually get straight to the point. That is correct.
But that assumes you know what you want, and that is debatable. But all right, so you're doing these drama. So you're a drama kid in high school.
Yeah,
effectively.
Musical theater.
Makes sense. You're loud.
Love that.
You have a signature mustache.
I do. And so
when did that happen?
Well, I've always had what I would call affectionately a porn stash.
This is not a porn stash.
This is definitely not a porn stash. I would say stops at the end of your upper lips. It just stops there. So I had one even in high school. But I knew when we were doing the show Godspell in high school, theater kid in high school, we're doing the show Godspell, very good friends with the English teacher that put on the productions. And when he was doing Godspell, he wanted me to audition, and he deliberately picked Godspell my senior year as the musical because he was going to give me the character of Herb, who doesn't sing.
Okay.
Because I can't hold a note.
Oh, he knew. Okay.
He knew, but knew he wanted me in it. He wanted the energy, wanted all that stuff. So that year I grew a beard because I was going to be on the stage. You want to stand out in a way, but not stand out in a way, and you want to create a character. You want to create a presence. So I grew a beard. After that, my high school prom, I did a Fu Manchu, took the beard off and did the Fu Manchu.
Why not?
Got the photos, why not? And then I would say about 13, 14 years ago, I had been thinking about growing a handlebar for 3 years. Thought about growing a handlebar.
Thought about it.
Thought about it for 3 years because you have to remember going back 13 years ago,
Yep.
handlebar is pretty radical. And I work for government.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, first off, I think non-art parents are great. You know, I think that tension is really great for a child, a teenager. I often interview people with art parents, and it's so different, you know, but at least you get the sense of rebellion and tension necessary when your parents work outside the arts. But in that same sense, I think there is a strange, with the state, you know, state funding arts for me is very complicated, but there's a similar thing at play, I do think. Even museums, right? I think museums should be much lamer than they are. I don't like that they try to be more hip and presentable. I like the tension of the institutions being out of step and out of rhythm with the artists on the, you know.
I would agree with you. Yes.
But so you are an interesting example because the mustache is the metaphor in this sense of, of you're like zany, right?
I would say that. Yeah.
I think it's pretty accurate that you're zany, but you work in this very, is it corporate? Is it?
I would use the word corporate.
Yeah.
I think we've become a little more relaxed since COVID. But prior to COVID, I would use the word very corporate.
But also that must give you value within this setting, right? Because you're in the arts.
Well, yes, but I will tell you when I grew the mustache, I got a lot of shit for it.
From whom?
Government. From my boss.
The whole.
And they were like, it's unprofessional.
Huh.
You shouldn't have it. And it was a weird experience to have that. And my philosophy was at that point, I think as you get older, things change. Maybe I would have preferred. I was like, well, I don't give a shit. And if someone doesn't like it, I'll just chop the sides off. But as I started owning it more and more, I was like, no, this is who I am. This is what I like. And it's just tough shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so tell me about navigating that space, because I've never worked in a corporate setting. You know, I've worked within my own businesses or within like dishwashing or Rite Aid, a pharmacy like CVS, but I've never made it into that world. So I've always been curious to know how you navigate it with a soul or a personality.
So it is really hard because they don't function well in that space at
Souls?
all. Anyone that is different from this is what you're told to do, this is how you proceed, this is what it is. And to have our type of agency that's facilitating filmmaking and stuff like that, we're not the normal government agency that we would think about it. And so we had a color copier back in the day when color copiers were crazy expensive. We would be asking to do stuff. It was never in their space that they could comprehend in the early days of new filmmaking in New Jersey and what we were trying to do. They fully couldn't grasp it. Now it's a totally different mindset. And I think it goes back to your comment about before being it's more direct now. Now it's very well explained. People understand it. And it's okay when we try to step out of the box a little bit.
So tangibly speaking, over the course of this 30 plus years, I think it's hard to understand somewhat what you do literally, right?
Literally?
Because it's so massive. The job description is huge because the state of New Jersey is the most densely populated in America. And I'm sure there's a lot of projects going on. Or do you have creative involvement, or is it likely facilitation and keeping people happy?
More facilitation. Coordination, facilitation. How
creative is the role?
Well, it can be creative because you're exposing them or making them visionary in what the location may be that they're looking for. You're opening that world up for their vision. So you're creatively impacting what they have access to create their world. It's not a direct creative like you're drawing or you're writing or you're sculpting or anything like that, which is why I do all that stuff as my side hustle.
But it's not a hustle in the sense that you're trying to make money, is it?
No, it's about staying creatively sane.
Right. And is this the most time you had to do this quote unquote hustle?
Right now is probably a little bit more complicated because we're so busy with the state with filmmaking. We've never
Right. So
been
can you
this
explain
busy.
why this shift? It's something I think about with the Williams Center as well. But there has been a shift with filmmaking in New Jersey in the last
6 years since Governor Murphy came in.
And that shift was, what's the
That
best
he
way to-
created a film and TV tax incentive. We incentivize studios to film in the state because they would get an economic benefit back as a tax credit for filming here.
And I'm assuming that changed everything.
Night and day, black and white, totally changed everything. We went from previous governor doing about $62 million worth of business to, in 2022, we did $700 million worth of business.
Wow.
98
What is
feature
that?
films.
Yeah, what is that business? So that's people come in from the outside or within New Jersey to film movies.
Right. So we incentivize filmmakers to film here. And so by filming here, you're employing craftsmen, artists on the productions
Right.
where they actually can work in the state and film in the state and spend money here. If you're a state that doesn't have a tax incentive, you traditionally are not going to be busy because studios that are controlling product and even independent filmmakers that are trying to do something creative or artistic need to go where there's going to be some sort of financial incentive.
Outside of that, is there any other reason you would film in New Jersey?
Yes, because in New Jersey, you can go soup to nuts, start to finish, shore to mountains,
Right.
urban to farm within 3 hours. You could do what is the look you're looking for, and New Jersey can give it to you. And that sounds like I'm selling, but I'm not. It's a fact.
No.
Yeah.
People don't know that, but it's true.
Yeah, you can. So you want urban, the grittiest urban?
Yep.
We can do it. And you want pastoral, hallmark, deep
Yep.
south? We can do it. You want mountains with snow? Can do it. You want beautiful shoreline? We can do it. And everything in between.
I don't know why I may be misremembering this, but I feel like part of the incentive of people moving to California early on in filmmaking was a similar thing, that they could find a variety of different landscapes to film within.
One of the aspects was that.
And then the East Coast kind of mobbed up.
There was Edison.
Yeah.
Because he was going to charge you for whenever using his technology. They wanted to escape his licensing fees. And in California, the weather is, beautiful. Almost every day, maybe outside of 12 days.
So you know this film history. You know a lot about films in general. Was this true before the job, or this is through the process of the job?
So I was before the job. I was a big filmmaker, big astute in learning and absorbing as much as I possibly can because I thought this business was fascinating. And for me, maybe the fascination is I love the aspect of creating something where you're controlling people's emotions.
Really?
Yeah, you're able to bring people into something. And to me, the ultimate goal of any sort of product that you're making or any sort of production that you're making is that if we can have them laugh and cry at the same time.
So what's a film that for you that is, very good at doing so? So emotionally speaking, do you like art films that are very dead and kind of stylized?
I can.
Yeah.
I think also, God, everything has to be qualified with double asterisks and all these crosses. So going back before streaming and before social media and stuff like that, when you went to the theater and you wanted to see something different, you were going for a particular experience and you had to go to, there's a movie called, and I'm going to butcher it, Koyaanisqatsi.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So we went to I went to the theater and watched it because I wanted to see something that was a little bit, more artful. It's kind of qualifying in a way, but if anyone listening or has seen this movie, it's not a traditional narrative production. So that was an experience you're going for in a way, maybe of performance art in a way, but you're going and you're just absorbing what is happening.
Yeah. I only ask because film can do a lot of things. But, a lot of movies I like, especially when I was younger, and I think there's a reason for this, aren't about emotion. They're about style and form and exploring that thing. Yeah. But as I get older, you become more of a human. You encounter more emotions, more complexity of emotions. I watched It's a Wonderful Life again the other day, and I couldn't help but feel that it's nearly a perfect movie.
It is
for that emotional reason.
And it wasn't when it came out. It did not do
I know.
well. It did not do well at all.
I looked into that. I'm always fascinated by things that completely fail, and then something that has nothing to do with the artist alters the perception of it. So this, because it was shown on TV in the 70s all the time during Christmas, went from being a flop to like 100 greatest films ever.
Yeah.
And the artist did nothing. And as an artist, you're grasping at metrics to understand if you did something good, especially if you're not confident or self-assured. And it's just wild to see that. I remember like reading about Kurosawa, and he was almost going to kill himself because one of his movies didn't do well in Japan. And that to me is like a bit insane,
right?
Honestly.
Yes.
But when you're that big and you represent basically an entire culture, I can't imagine being creative under the conditions under which you think like that. You're hoping to please a nation.
I'm certain, and I don't know this for a fact because it's not like I go out and have coffee with them or drinks with them, but when Spielberg was remaking West Side Story, I can only imagine the pressure that was on him for why, and is he going to be touching this institutional?
Right. Yeah.
And so, but whatever, he felt that there had to be a need, and I believe maybe in just the nature of what he does, that besides it being some sort of commercial and monetary reason why you're doing it, that there was something there that he felt could add to that.
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
The remake it's really very well done.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more truer to what was going on societal wise compared to when the other one was made, because obviously Natalie Wood wasn't really singing, and there was a very different socioeconomic and also cultural issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he wanted to bring it back to what his perception of what it should have been.
Yeah, I watched AI also recently, which is insane. That movie is insane. Underrated film. Kubrick to Spielberg, I believe.
Yeah.
What a strange handoff.
Yeah. Very strange. Very
weird. Very good movie. Emotionally effective. I don't know when the last time you saw that was, but
it's
horrifying at times.
Is it really? It's been a really long time.
It's really sad. Well, I'm kind of curious just from in general, do you have opinions about the best decade of filmmaking? I'm curious to hear your opinion. I mean, you've seen many films, you've seen them be produced. We've talked before, so I know you know a lot about film.
Yeah.
With no qualifiers, what are the...
It's definitely not now.
Right. I mean, that's a good place to start. But why, and what is that?
Because it just feels that there's other market forces, whatever that may be, that are opinionating and being involved in the content of material. And that's a mouthful.
How do we distill this?
Well,
so let me...
Yeah.
Like Cabrini we talked about.
Yeah.
Good example of... We were talking about the idea that ironically, this film isn't preachy in a religious sense. It's preachy more in like a feminist sense. And that it was very heavy-handed in that way, like just beating you over the head. Disney is very good at this now. And I don't think a lot of people who are not artists understand why that's a problem. In fact, because everyone sees things politically now. It seems completely logical that you would soak your work in just political ideology. It's hard for me to articulate when you're making something why that's a problem, or why the boardroom notion that I thought was so clearly lame. The idea that a bunch of people would kind of test a product or a film and then tell you, oh, you need one more woman in this position, or you need this message, is not conducive to making art. We've known that. Now artists do this in their own head, unfortunately. That must be part of the decline. But without sounding like curmudgeons.
Right,
there has to be a charitable view.
Yes.
Or a more articulate view so that people feel that they can combat these things. Because it's easy to say, well, just be yourself, make pure art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's something else going on. Then you probably have a better view of it than me.
Yeah, it just feels more corporate. It feels more calculated. It doesn't feel pure. How do I back that up? There does seem something removed from what is going on and what you're seeing. Maybe people aren't taking as many chances with content. Maybe that's really what I'm trying to say. It just doesn't feel that way. This is taking a turn from I remember watching the movie The Lorax.
You were telling me.
And I told you, and I use it as an example. It's like, enough with saving the trees, and enough. It's like you're beating me over my head with it. And there's something about going back. It felt maybe back in the day, when I talk about the disaster films of, is it the 80s, maybe, with the Poseidon Adventure, the Towering Inferno, Earthquake. When you talk about that kind of stuff, and you had major powerhouses, there was a personality, there was a persona, there was a star that was in that. When you go back to something like Bette Davis, or you go back to Alfred Hitchcock, and you go back to those period of times, was there mystique about them? Was there a persona about it? They just felt more powerful. It felt like we were drawn to it more in this golden era of filmmaking and of content.
Yeah. Sometimes the easiest way to talk about it, I think, is anthropomorphizing the film. So now that we're talking about, the films don't work because they're condescending. They're basically telling you you're stupid.
Yes.
And this is how the world should be viewed.
Yes.
There's never been good art. I mean, that's propaganda. That's not art, for one. Separate that out. But yeah, no one wants to, a stranger walks up to them and then just says, basically, you're wrong and this is how things are. And that's what a lot of films feel like now. They're not conversations. They don't have any sentience in a weird way. Like, they're dead. They're dead propaganda. They're didactic. They're one-way streets.
Yes.
I don't know what the cure is, but I think it's coming. I think all things, you've probably seen in 30 years, there must be swings here.
All the time.
Has to be.
Yeah.
You see it in everything. It's unavoidable. So getting fearful of it, I mean, because imagine the control that's going to be removed from these industries. If you want to make Star Wars films that are actually good, you're going to have a bunch of nerds with AI doing it better than them in 5 years.
Yes.
Crazy.
That's right.
Going to be crazy. And going to be super customizable, and even more of a nightmare from that perspective sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Where people don't know what's good for them often. And that doesn't mean you should make a film that's condescending. Mm-hmm. But what I mean is, we all don't know what we want in some sense.
That's right.
So if we can customize a movie where it's Star Wars, but I don't know, everyone believes this or that thing and they look like this, I don't think that's going to pan out to be interesting. I think we're going to kind of worship the last 100 years of films that are static, unchangeable, even when they're shitty.
Right.
I suspect. There's something to hold on to.
Right.
But how do we fix it? You just wait.
I think you have to wait because there's a massive compression going on now. And it's not like, all of a sudden, I know what's going on. It's just there's this massive compression going on, as we know, with entertainment, with filmmaking, with all this.
What does that mean, compression?
So prior to COVID, there was a lot of production going on. People are watching, people are engaged, everyone's very active. Streaming is just starting to get a little bit more of the thing. We're getting fully engaged. And then during COVID, obviously, because we were trapped, we consumed massive quantities of content, all types of content. Obviously, we're trapped in the house.
Via streaming. Uh-huh.
We were watching everything. And the beauty and the ability with streaming was that we could see whatever we want, whenever we wanted. Unlike going back when there was 5 channels on TV and I was a kid, you watched stuff at a certain time.
Yep.
So streaming, and they're obviously doing the metrics on what people are watching, how they're watching it, and all that kind of stuff. So we come out of streaming and come out of COVID for streaming, and everyone's like, yes, let's start making content, every possible content. We're going to make content. And you get some good stuff, but it's a little bit of the Wild West where you're not going to get the good stuff because you're just making stuff for...
to fulfill a demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm going to go to the Williams Center tonight and watch a band instead of watching some okay, not so great content on some streaming service because I'm not trapped at home. I'm able to go be interactive. And art, going back to this, to me, art, whatever that is interactive and you're engaged in the art. So whether it's going into a museum, looking at a statue, going to a museum, looking at a painting, whether you're going to a concert, you're engaged. You're emotionally somewhere, you're brought into that world. And obviously, when streamers are just churning stuff out without any sort of guideline on it, it eventually cycles itself out. I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to go bring this back one more time. There was a period of time prior to COVID when we were doing, New Jersey was the reality show capital of the world.
Of course.
We were doing more reality shows. So when we would ask executives why New Jersey, their comment all the time was that real people are from New Jersey.
I was about to say, that's interesting.
They're
real people.
Real people. That was their comment. And I'm not going to out my friends at HBO that said that to me and someone at Warner's, two separate people, completely unrelated.
Real people.
Real people. So why New Jersey? Why are you dumping all this content into New Jersey? What is going on when all that stuff? And we all know all
the
that.
Real Housewives.
Real Housewives
real.
with Jersey-licious, Jersey Shore.
No, but it's just funny they use the word real.
Yeah, they're real. Well, real is...
Well, that's the irony of the thing.
Yes.
I mean, reality TV is so weird and so meta and strange to begin with. I mean, it's a great trick. Perverse.
It's perverse. And the wonderful thing is that I think as I watch stuff all the time, I wind up getting aggravated because I'll watch not that reality. Well, there's different levels of reality, but when I'm watching stuff, all of a sudden I realize that it's soft scripted a little too hard.
Oh, yeah.
A little too hard. And then it completely removes me from the fun of why I'm watching it. So I'm being a little engaged on it. And so there's a show on Netflix. It's the 12-hour instant makeover where they make over a house in 12 hours. And I get it's supposed to be fun, but there's a couple points in the show where I'm like, yeah, you guys are trying way too hard. You're trying way too hard here. Just let it flow. Renovating a house in 12 hours, it's normal enough. It's going to be wacky, crazy, insane.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's like there's a point where it's almost too hard and it removes me from the equation. But anyway, I want to go back to that art is you're supposed to be drawn in, interactive, engaged, and even sometimes bad art or art that there's different levels of it, you want to be engaged in art.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of ask these questions from the perspective of, I assume mostly other artists listen. And there is a phase where you can become more conscious of what makes good art as an artist. I'm not sure it helps you.
I would agree with you.
I'm not sure it helps. But the relationship to the consumer is a very strange one, I find. Because what we're talking about here is a boardrooms trying to predict consumer behavior at large scales.
100%.
It tends to be true that the proper way to proceed is you have a small clique of artists who are good, who only care about each other's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
10 to 15 people. That's what shocks me is like, obviously abstract expressionism happens in that very small area. I think that's still how things are going to work, even with the regional or with the international global quality of the internet. It's really about these tight little pockets who are concerned at the level they should be, which is very localized. And I'm not even saying regional. It could just be 10 art school kids who went to RISD, who are not from RISD. But their concern is humble. I find there's something hubristic about a boardroom sitting around thinking they know what millions of people are going to like. And I think that's the real problem, in a sense.
Yeah.
Is the arrogance of this thing.
Yeah.
Because like you can make, I believe Alice in Wonderland was just made for Lewis Carroll's kids. He's not sitting around saying, how do I make a thing that lasts 200 years, 300 years? What will people like? I mean, there's nothing more pathetic than a person who wants to be liked.
Yes.
And that is really the rub with social media and these newer films is they want to be liked at large scales.
Everything revolves around being liked at the largest scale you could possibly get.
Right. Which is only repulsive in a weird way. But it's true if you, again, anthropomorphize the situation. There's so many examples of women rejecting a man who desperately wants to be liked by them, and then them loving men who don't care about them at all. Yes. And that's kind of how a lot of good art works, is that I mean, there's contemporary art that's way too overly dismissive of the humanity of the consumer. So there's a balance to be struck. But good movies, they just understand that dynamic, you know? There's countless examples. I'm sure they're happening now. I'm sure A24 has films that, you know.
Absolutely. They have really zeroed in on it. And there's a refreshingness of the content that they are creating.
Any of that in New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw the TV Glow.
Didn't see it.
Yes, it's out. I would recommend it. The director did I don't know if she did a podcast, what exactly it was, but I was fascinated. She actually drew me into more. We just did something called Y2K, which was another A24 film. We work with A24 all the time, and it's kind of very refreshing content. They kind of have an understanding of what they're looking to get, and I'm certain there's some metrics somewhere along the line, but it just feels refreshing in a way that we don't see other places.
Yeah, I don't think metrics are necessarily bad.
No,
it's
right.
Priority and the order in which you view them.
Yes.
You know, like, it's unavoidable at certain scales and I find in certain ages as an artist that you kind of have to start, your concerns shift, your priorities shift. You seek tangibility to connect with others. And it's just, those things shouldn't drive the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
They should be way down there. There's no harm in understanding the impact. It's just, how are you going to react to such information ultimately? Mm-hmm. But so in respect to your career, it seemed, I mean, how old are you?
I'm 61.
You're 61. It seems like if you look back from the beginning, it's been quite an upward trajectory. All in all.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my mom just retired. My parents just retired. It's a very interesting idea to me, retiring.
Yeah, I don't know how I personally will be able to cope with that. I don't see it on my horizon, but go on. Yes. Yeah.
What could you hope for the remainder of your occupation?
I don't know. I have to be careful because I love being active. I like being active. I like being engaged. And so I have talked to a lot of people that retire, and they're not sure what they're doing, what to do. I'm not the type that's going to go golfing every day and have a great time with that. But
if you're self-motivated, there's no issue, right? You make photos.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So yes, exactly. That would keep me going towards that. But I know a lot of people that don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, how do I put it? Understandably, most people's motives lie outside themselves or outside of God, etc.
Yeah.
They lies within social things, money. I don't know. Some people don't think about it either. But being where you're at now,
mm-hmm.
How can it get better? How can it even go any higher? I mean, the funding is increased. It's directly linked to your job.
Right.
It seems to me that courting the funding of the state government is the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the ultimate objective. Did your commission play a role in that increase?
Yeah.
What's the logic of Murphy throwing a shit ton of money at this idea?
Well, it's about creating and it seems like a pat answer all the time. I don't know why I always qualify stuff, but because it's about creating an industry here that is going to create jobs. It's going to create opportunities, and this film industry, when it films here, is really a beneficial, as I call it, mom and pop business, because the average person that is working in the trades making movies is a middle class individual that is like the rest of us, working to feed the family, working to better their family. And so why can't we have these opportunities here? Why can't it be here? And the governor, you have to go after something all in, because that's the nature of this business right now. When we didn't have one, we were not doing any work.
When you didn't have
Tax incentive.
right.
Prior administration, I would say in 8 years, we did 10 days of major production in 8 years.
10 days?
10 days of major productions in 8 years.
So what did you do?
We still did work,
Okay.
but they were not big budgeted productions.
And now what's the comparable?
And so now we did 98 feature films in 2022 and generated $700 million. We have whole films shooting here. And so we have a whole films here. One of the things for us, for me, and for obviously why we do this is that New Jerseyans can stay in New Jersey and work in the business that they've chosen to work in and not have to go to another place to do it. They get to go home at night to eat with their families.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm trying to process. Again, it sounds like you've reached a pinnacle here.
I think so.
And not that that it'll go down.
No. I think that we have a little bit more of a couple of mountains to climb. And I think once we have the numerous stage spaces that are supposed to come online, and then it's this humming along, functioning system. We don't have campuses here yet. We don't. When you go out to LA, you'll go to the Paramount back lot, the Warner's back lot. We don't have that here yet, but within 5 years we will.
That'll be cool.
Within 5 years, we're going to have these campuses, and it's just going to solidify this industry that is in the state.
Yeah, I think I largely asked that kind of question from the perspective of I've never worked within a system that large. Okay. And so understanding what makes people continue doing a job for 30 plus years, that is largely controlled by, collectively.
Yeah.
What is the motivation? What continues to keep you driven to push it to even farther heights? Is it just the love of film and New Jersey? Are you from New Jersey?
Yes, from New Jersey.
Okay.
I think it's love of film, a love of New Jersey, and the people that I've worked with over this last 3 decades. It's really, I love working with them.
That's cool.
And they are, for lack of a better way, in some form, they're all different artists in different things. And so whether they're location managers or it's a production designer or an art director, I love working with people. I'm a real big people person. I love the interaction with people.
Good thing you didn't become an artist.
Yeah.
A photographer is very social. So.
Yeah, very social.
But there's other ones can be crushing to that personality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no doubt.
Well, I think it's good for me to hear that. I mean, it's easy to just make a monolith of government-funded, state-sanctioned, art-related.
Yes. Which is, entities. Which could be the Council on the Arts and stuff like that, depending on what you're doing.
I have a natural suspicion of certain scales.
Fair enough.
And there's a bit of immaturity there because at a certain scale, mistakes become bigger. You got to be forgiving of certain things, But it's nice to hear that a thing that would be fueled by this state money has some integrity and enjoyment and humanity. That's helpful for me. Because I think the Williams Center ultimately, if I'm being realistic, is waiting on a state grant. I think realistically to run something like that at that scale.
I will tell you that I think in order for it to survive, that you need that.
Yeah, so I have to be more graceful with this.
Exactly. I think you should.
See examples of humans doing things within this context.
You need to be, because it ain't easy.
No, and I don't know what that disconnect is actually. And I've always grappled with it. It's easy to fall into this kind of, I don't even know what it is, like this notion that the middle class and the lower class are stupid. They don't get art, and thus they don't fund the good art, and thus you need elite sponsorship via, rich upper class people or the state. Now, there's something true about it that I can't put my finger on. But there's something also just very clearly wrong about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you take something beautiful like classical music, it only exists because there's wealthy people willing to keep it alive. If you had to run it without those donors, like people showing up paying, I don't know, $40 who are just blue collar, it's never going to last.
Yeah.
Right.
And someone would say, well, why are you making that statement? But you and I both know who's going to listen. Who's going to listen to pay the $40, to pay the $60?
Well, it's other people interested in classical music, which is very niche, there's like a high-low thing at play where the artist without the money will then become essentially commodified by the people with the money. But it keeps the thing going. Mm-hmm. You know, there's certain traditions that would never continue if they relied strictly on like just consumers buying it. I think. Whether that means it should die out, I don't know. Right. You know what I mean? It's like kind of an interesting problem. I don't know when like this kind of intervention is a good or a bad thing for the evolution of an art form. I got nothing. I grapple with this idea. Like I used to think that in like art school because you're primed to think that everyone's stupid and they don't know how to look at conceptual art because they didn't go to school and they weren't educated. And then you realize most of this stuff is flaccid and vapid. That's why they don't like it.
Yes.
Not because they're dumb.
Right.
And and film is a great example because it's always been more blue collar, maybe because of the workers, like you were mentioning. But films tend to be pretty well, despite what I was saying about It's a Wonderful Life, I feel like the audience tends to be at least somewhat in line with the value of the film or the quality of the film. I think they reject shitty things.
Yes.
It's always been a medium that's not very elitist, I don't think.
No.
Which is appealing in a lot of ways. So I think it's less true in that circumstance that the commoner does. Like, I feel like common people, when they really like a movie, it's usually a great film.
Yes.
If you stop being an asshole about it, you know, like It's a Wonderful Life or something. Great film. I don't know what other movies like people like Snatch. It's a great movie. He made a lot of bad movies, but that movie's good. I'm trying to think of other movies people really like. I mean, we were talking about John Hughes. Those are just great movies.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always use this example all the time that sometimes you have to go, you just got to go along for the ride, even if it's cotton candy, right? Cotton candy. We talked about this. We eat the cotton candy, tastes great, and then it's gone.
No, I don't remember if we talked about it.
Okay, so Speed.
The drug or the film?
The film. Speed.
Great film.
The film. Yes, but
ridiculous movie.
Exactly. But there's something about it that you go along for this ride.
You have no choice.
Yeah, but you're totally engaged.
You have no choice. It's such a good premise.
Yes.
That you're saying film.
You see, but to me also, you go along for the ride, but as it, there's still an emotional element to what is going on, that you're attracted to these characters, you're attracted to those personas, even in that kind of vacuous way of what that movie is.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something really satisfying about distilling films down like that.
Yeah.
Like, just to the pitch. It's so ridiculous, that movie. But
Completely
it works.
ridiculous. And then they complete the ridiculousness at the end of the movie when they're on top of the Los Angeles subway cars, and they're doing that whole fight with Dennis Hopper. It's like even more ridiculous, but you're still fully engaged. I was fully engaged in that movie. And I could be kind of like a little bit highbrow, hoity-toity at times. I was like, oh my God, I love this movie. This is a fun movie.
You ever think about making films or no?
Oh, I have. I've made a couple independent features.
And what is the nature of them?
So one was about reincarnation and this young woman who dies, and this cop is trying to solve a murder mystery and believes that this young woman he meets is the reincarnation of this young girl that he saw die when he was younger. And another one.
That's like a drama?
Drama,
yeah.
But I'm like drama. I'm a big drama guy. Because once again, we're controlling emotions. I'm controlling. I want you to cry. I want you to laugh.
You like theater. You like drama.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not a big horror guy. It just doesn't, if it's done well, like Silence of the Lambs, which is really just horror. I mean, people don't think
very good film.
Yeah. There's something engaging about that. And while the Saw series is not my cup of tea on any level. I will tell them, I think the first one, they figured out how to reinvent horror in a little bit of a different way than we were not used to seeing.
I couldn't get over the aesthetic. I don't remember the film. Just so stupid looking. The mask is ugly.
But I was.
But there's it's like a Rube Goldberg.
Yes.
Torturing you, basically.
Yes.
Sure, we all like that kind of technical.
Yes. But see, I was okay for the first one. I could get into it, get involved. It was like, oh, wow, okay, kind of different. But then after that, it was like, we're just having a stamp. We just keep on stamping.
Oh, yeah.
The other film.
The same issue, the corporate issue.
Yeah.
So what's your other film?
And so the other movie was called The Dangerous Place, and it came out of all anthrax, everything that was going on with anthrax when they were mailing stuff in the mail. Sure. So you would like this because it really pertains to the woman who's working at a pharmaceutical company believes that these people that are dying from something like anthrax that is being delivered to the mail is actually the corporation doing it itself.
Which corporation?
Pharmaceutical company.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Because they control the antibiotic.
Right.
And so it's a great way to raise...
Prescient.
Yes. Yeah. So we kind of ran with that. And she obviously has to figure it out and solve it. And obviously there is a couple rogue employees that are actually doing it.
Do you think they're good films?
I do. For what they were, for what they are, for independent, spending, $200,000 on them to get them made. We did really well on as I would say, the regional film festival circuit. That's cool. I was really happy about that.
When did you make them?
Oh, God. So one was made about 20 years ago, and the other one was probably made about 15.
Okay.
So they're a little old, but at the same time, right when COVID was ending, I said to myself, I have to keep my friends creatively sane. I have to work with my friends because creatively no one's been doing anything. So what can we do where I can help as many people and engage as many people as possible? So I came up with this character called Tuddy, and Tuddy lives in Atlantic City in 1921. He's a young man. He's in his 40s. He's overweight. And he's a code enforcement officer for women's swimwear.
This is not a film. This is imaginary.
It's an imaginary thing that we made a short. We made 6 micro shorts.
Okay.
Made 6 micro shorts. And so came up with the character. And so we were not going to film on the beach, but we wanted to create these micro shorts where these 2 to 4 minute little moments in time about Tuddy's character. Kind of like Roscoe Arbuckle, Fatty Arbuckle. A little bit. He's kind of like a little bit of that. They're silent and black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was great. I got 6 directors, 6 of my friends that were directors, got 3 writers. We did 6 episodes. It was 6 directors, 3 writers, 4 editors, a whole bunch of crew people. And we went up to the Art Factory in Patterson. Mm-hmm. And in a day, everyone created their own episode. And we also had some editors on, and everyone had an AD to help them. So it was a great way to do these 6 things, and people got to be a little creative during a time when there was really nothing going on and there was no opportunities.
Yeah, interesting. I'm trying to understand how your own output weaves in and out. I know you have children as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, you have to be creatively sane. It's just always interesting to me how much pressure, for better or for worse, people put on their own personal output.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, that life is short. If we lived at 200, like maybe people will in the future, it would be different. But our span of time in terms of becoming a master of art is tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Even Hokusai, it's like he was making art into his 90s, and he is clearly a master. But that's all he did, and it was a commercial art. There was no notion of what we consider a fine artist in Japan at that time. He was a commercial artist. The Great Wave is just like if you made a poster and it was in everyone's house. That's all.
Mm.
But these trade-offs of, even if it's like, are you going to have a kid? Are you not? Are you going to try to merge the passion into your occupation? Are you going to try to separate them out? And then I assume one day you're 60 and you're looking back and you can kind of see basically how much you've watered each plant. But I assume you would have no regret, actually. You were a family, good father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good occupation. It's a good job.
Yeah.
all things considered.
All things considered, yeah.
And now you have the personal. You probably have more time, right?
I do have more time.
For
And
the
I also I try to make more time.
But what does it feel like to be 60 and trying to make art? Is there a different mental?
There is, because you definitely have the mindset that time is not on your side anymore.
Oh yeah, you could die any day. I mean, you could always die.
Well, you fair enough. Yeah, but you definitely.
But it's different. It's different.
Yeah, you're 35, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there's
The odds go up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I can sense death, but obviously I can die any day. But it's different.
Yeah, it's totally different, and it's not like I'm thinking about dying, but it's just totally, totally different.
What I'm wondering from the perspective of energy and actually caring.
My energy has not dissipated.
Right,
my energy is as strong as it's ever been. People tell me all the time that if I'm in a room, I take it as a compliment. I make a cup of coffee nervous, and so that has not dissipated. My passion, that is like.
Was that in your blood, genetically?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's like that in your family? You got
probably more on my mom's side. I'm half Italian, half German.
That's okay.
Dad's German, mom's Italian. And my mom used to say, even though this is probably not completely what it was, I was a bit of a Carmen Ghia. The car is Carmen Ghia's, German bodies with Italian motors.
That's nice.
Yeah. So it's always been there. Definitely more on the Italian side than the German side. The German side, well, we're going to the stereotype now.
No, it's not. It's
very stoic.
A thing.
Yeah, very stoic, very procedural.
Stereotypes are interesting because they exist for a reason. They may be true at certain scales and false at granular scales, but Germans are completely different than Italians at large. They produce completely different culture, different outcomes.
I'm shaking my head left and right. Keep on going. It's night and day.
It's funny that in World War II they were allied in some sense, but even when you look into that alliance, it's not very. It was barely there.
That's right.
But I feel like they couldn't be more different. I do know that modern Italians often have to go to Germany to get work because Germany kind of is. I feel like it's the only one who's really doing work in the EU sometimes, based on my cartoonish understanding.
Yes.
But no, that makes sense. I think you're efficiently emotional.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great combination. But in terms of ideas, right? Like, I can tell there's already a difference between getting an idea in my 20s and 30s. And it's not about the rate at which I get ideas. They come quick, but it's the sheer arrogance that I had in my 20s that like the idea, one, needed to occur, and two, like must be accepted. Like it simply must be worth viewing. In my 30s, I'm more, and this is no celebration, but it's kind of unavoidable. The more you connect with other humans, the more you become kind of networked into that logic. And I pick and choose in a very different way what's going to come out, what's going to get made.
Yeah.
Maybe more pragmatic. I don't know. But do you sense that? Like,
yes.
Do you care more or less about if you were to make a film today? Because I can imagine you get over a hill where you don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think I'm at that point. I think in some ways I'm at that point. I really, I would say it's probably hitting all the aspects of your life as you get a little older, and we talk about this all the time, where you just don't give a shit. At some point,
right.
I want to make. I'm going to make this. This is what I want to make. I don't give a shit if no one sees it.
Comes back in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, okay, someone doesn't like me. I don't give a shit. Tough. This is what I am. People used to come, oh, you're very loud. You're very loud. You're very loud. And so I would always kind of temper it, I would say, in my 20s and 30s. And even 40s, I was a little more aware, very self-aware of it. And even, I'm not going to say his name, my former executive director would always go, you're loud. You're very loud. And now I am of the mind, it's just tough shit. You don't like it, then you shouldn't hang around me. Don't bother with me, or don't invite me in to be in the room.
Right. It's a delicate balance.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm not.
You're not being rude.
Yeah, we're not talking about being rude.
Yeah.
We're not talking about being obnoxious. We're not talking about. We've all been in those rooms where someone's like, "What's going on?" It's not that. It's just I have a very high energy level and a very high. I'm always enthusiastic. It's always up, and it's not like I'm bipolar or anything like that. It's just who I am. I get very excited, and I love. There's a massive energy that happens, and you can tap into it and feed off of it and go with it, or you can not get it, and usually that's because the other individual just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not a banker.
Right.
So,
Well, that's what's interesting is you're you hear the word commission.
Yeah.
I try to avoid commissions, coalitions or these people are the enemy of the arts as far as I'm concerned. Typically, councils.
Yeah.
These people seek to destroy. They're usually comprised of middling to low level artists. I'm not attacking anyone here, except I am.
I know where you're going. Keep on going.
And they simply are
check.
put in place to control actually good artists or to smear and ruin them.
Yes.
This is a pattern of the arts. Nothing more scornful than a failed artist.
Yeah.
That's why this is so wonderful and heartening to hear that there's a commission that sounds like it does good for the arts.
And what we try to balance with the art form that we're talking about is that no matter where you are in that socioeconomic art form, let's just say, we're going to work with you. We're going to help you. I love it. When I used to be on the board of ed in my town, and we would have student filmmakers that would come in and trying to create art, whatever it may be, whether it's through their project and whatever their motive was, we always would work with them. I always would love working with them. I got a high level of satisfaction, even though financially the board may have not been making a lot of money. You're cultivating, you're giving them an opportunity, you're helping them. All those little things you're doing that are so important. And there's a great level of satisfaction.
I can imagine. It's very holistic, what you encounter. And I'm sure it suits your personality that the speed and rapidity at which it happens.
Yes.
If you could pump out 100 feature films in a year, that's pretty stimulating, I would say. It's got me thinking, what are the most, and I don't know why this pops into my head, but I always thought the movie Up should not be a movie, but a short. And it should be about 5 minutes long. And it should only be the beginning of the movie that makes you cry.
I would tell you, I think the first beginning is 15 minutes.
I don't even remember.
Okay, well, so I'm going to do it because I watched the movie over and over.
Oh, yeah?
It's actually one of my favorites.
Okay.
And whenever I feel, for lack of a better way to phrase it, be emotional, to be taken on a ride, I'll just watch that first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's...
rest of the movie is nonsense.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
The first 15 minutes of that movie
That's what why I think of it is it's one of the most condensed emotional moments in film.
Absolutely.
And it makes me want, I can already tell as I get older, like there's a compression and condensing of time, relationships, and emotion that make you more emotional as you're 35 versus 25. And that you'll see it in other films sometimes. Trying to think of I think I'm thinking of Cinema Paradiso at the end, where it's a compression of cinema itself in a romantic sense. But that always gets to me because in life, you don't experience things at that speed emotionally.
That's right.
Which actually can deaden you to life, I find, sadly. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like
absolutely.
Yeah, the narrativization of life itself can make life seem kind of boring. But yeah, Up, that's such a funny... It's so weird to hear someone say that the first 15 minutes of a movie is the best part of the movie.
Clearly.
It's very... I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm trying to understand what that is. It's just... Is it that compression? Is it...
I think, as artists, we're storytellers. There's a story. I think for me, even when you're... I've always felt even when you're doing a painting, there's something going on. There's emotional. There's something going on that you're bringing out in this creation. And at least in motion picture and in TV and all that kind of stuff, we're storytellers. And they compressed in that first 15 minutes where we're going to pick this character up, where he is as a 80-year-old man in his life. So that they're going to take us on why he's doing everything he's doing after that, the rest of, the other hour. And they compressed it so well down. And it's so artful because it totally plays into what I told you when we started this conversation is that I emotionally want to be taken. I want to take people on a journey. I want to be taken on a journey. I went back in the day, digressing. I remember back in the day when I was watching E.T. E.T. came out. I went back and watched it 10 times. And I would bring people that knew nothing about it because I wanted to watch them cry at the end of the movie when E.T.'s dying. When E.T. dies. Because I knew at the end of the day, E.T. was going to come back at some point. But they were in the theater, no sense of it at all. And you're emotionally, oh my God, you want to, and.
Let's go. I want to hear more examples of this emotional.
Well, I think, I will. So
films that hit that for you.
E.T. big time. Went back and saw it, I said 10 times as a young man. I remember kept on going back, brought different family people up, did it. It's interesting that its animation is very, very key in some ways. So with Frozen.
Never seen it. Can't get past the aesthetic.
Okay, so bear with me on this now. Disney and Pixar, I forget what, I think it's just Disney. They obviously have formulaic stuff. And so I remember when I went to go see Frozen, and what I've tried to do if I can is not read or know anything about the film I'm going to see. I just go see it. I try not to,
no trailers that tell you the entire film in 2 minutes.
I try not to do anything. So Frozen, I had no friggin' clue. So I'm sitting in the theater and I'm getting that, okay, this is Disney. Okay, I know what's going on. I'm going to give you another, I know what's going on here. And so I'm going on, I go, I know how this is going to end. I know how all this is going to happen. And those son of a bitches totally faked me out. And Disney totally faked me out because Prince Charming,
I never saw it. Go ahead,
is the villain.
The
schlubby blue-collar horseman guy who's kind of a goofball is actually the good guy and not just the second banana or the secondary character. He's actually what you should be attracted to. He's not Prince Charming. He's not perfect, but he's who you should be with.
What emotion did that evoke?
Well, I was actually happy in a way. So here's the thing. So at the end, obviously she's freezing everything up. And well, now she's froze the whole town. Everyone's frozen. And the key to it ending and solving it is the love of her family. The love of family is what unfreezes everything. Not Prince Charming giving her a kiss. Not the handsome guy taking care of it. It was all of that that was really, and I remember being like, oh, wow, this is like, I was like, okay.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, so I was happy with that. Also, there's also a little other thing in that movie. What they did for Frozen, right? To get the boys in, you have Olaf. The goofy snow guy. So that brings you in. It's a side, they kind of like bait and switch you a little bit. But I'm willing to let it go because the stereotype of Prince Charming and the stereotype of how you would take care of stuff was no longer there. They got rid of it for that production.
It's one of the ugliest.
And I mean, it's simple. I'm being
very
ugly.
I'm
I'm simplifying it, but I'm like, okay. A little refreshing. It's a little refreshing to have that.
Yeah, I mean, they play these endless inversion games now that I find really boring, but maybe at that time that was refreshing. What I find is Disney just inverts it's so obvious their inversions that they play now that it's actually part of their formula.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
People sitting around the boardroom.
Yeah. But I want to hear more movies.
Well,
I find it entertaining.
Well,
emotional moments.
Emotional moments. So another movie I remember watching. I was working at my uncle's restaurant down in Ortley Beach. He had a restaurant down there. I was living with my aunt and my two cousins, and my one younger cousin. She's like maybe 4 or 5 years younger than me. And I remember that we would watch the movie The Champ with Faye Dunaway, John Voight, and Ricky Schroeder, who plays the Champ's kid. We would watch it over and over again because there's a scene where John Voight has been beaten to a bloody pulp and he's laying inside the boxer's room, and Ricky Schroeder is crying uncontrollably, telling his father not to die, don't die. And it's beyond brilliant. And it's like, oh my God, I'm going to start crying right now thinking about it. And it was once again this ability that they were controlling their emotions through this amazing story that was it was I don't know, it stayed with me all these years.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is none of these examples are art school cinema examples.
No.
And is there a film you think of that's considered, I don't know how to word it, like Criterion Collection, this kind of
Well,
because they're usually not aiming for that same thing.
Right.
But,
So when we talk about Criterion Collection, are we talking, that something would be like Sunset Boulevard? Are you talking about so give me something in that? Are we talking about the Thin Man? Are we talking? What is in that Criterion Collection wheelhouse? That because I love cinema of the 30s, of the 40s, of the 50s. That stuff is amazing.
yeah, no, I'm mostly trying to
but I'm just saying,
pinpoint your own aesthetic, and I think that's interesting because, well, it seems very heart forward. And I don't know if emotions technically track onto just the heart, but it sounds like for you that is the main strength of cinema. So I'm trying to imagine the films that affect you most in that sense, and if they mostly fit into popular film or indie film.
Oh, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm all over the place and not easily, because Speed is my example. Going back to Speed, that's like, I told you, that's like eating I'm just taking a bag of cotton candy. So, this tastes tasty. And then when you're done, I'm like, okay, well, it's over. I got no more cotton candy.
Right.
Maybe I'll go back and watch it again because I like cotton candy, but I'm not going to watch Speed 57 times.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. Well, let's flip it, though. What's a film you think is deeply overrated?
Oh, geez.
Or just bad?
Oh, God. Wow.
Is there a film it was so bad you were offended by it?
Yeah. It was a movie that Michael Douglas did and Tobey Maguire did called Wonder Boys.
Don't know it.
Yeah. He was a writer. I've never left the movie. And I walked out of the movie. Maybe it's immaturity. I don't know. I don't remember what year it was. I was like, this movie is horrible. And I remember I walked out. I even stayed. Woody Allen did a movie called The Front about the blacklist back in the 50s. And I stayed through the whole movie because there was something about it that.
You're saying it was bad?
I wasn't happy with it at all.
I watched that Woody Allen movie with Larry David in it. That's horrible. Oh. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Horrible. Just horrible.
It's
unwatchable, would you almost say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
from a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
The message.
You want to check them all off? We can sit here and check them all off, Michael. Check.
What's they called? Whatever works. Whatever works. Crazy.
Yeah. And I love, it's interesting because everyone said, oh, I'm a huge Hitchcock fan. But at the same time, I think the language of film has changed so much that his films do not hold up well today for today's audiences. And so for a young person today that's grew up in the language of film today, for them to appreciate a Hitchcock film or appreciate something like that, where the rollout is quite slow when it comes to story, I actually get a huge kick out of it and kind of love it.
You mean that friction, that tension?
Well, when you watch Vertigo, here she's Kim Novak's walking, Kim Novak's opening a door, Kim Novak's getting in a car, Kim Novak's walking up a flight of stairs, Kim Novak's walking on the streets. That you don't see that anymore.
Right.
You don't see anything like that anymore. That's like it's stuff's a little slower. So jumping all over the place. I remember Psycho. That when I first saw Psycho, they cut out the scene where the cop pulls her over in the car, where she's being pulled over in the car and he's got the glasses on. For some reason, whenever I went to go see whenever I saw that movie or anything about that movie, that scene was not included. I can't explain why, but I remember one time was playing, NJCU was Jersey City State at the time, was playing it, and I called them up and said, does this scene exist in the movie? And obviously it did, so I went to go see it. And then there was a point also where Universal, there was 5 movies of Hitchcock's that hadn't been released or anything like that, and Cineplex or someplace on 14th Street was showing them all: Trouble with Harry, Vertigo, Rope, Rear Window, and I forget the last one. That's horrible. I should know them all. And I wanted to go see them all. I wanted to see them in the theater, and I wanted to see them in as they were supposed to be presented, to get it. But once again, like I said, the language of film has really changed with his type of content.
Yeah. No, I understand. Well, we could talk about films all day.
Oh, I know. So
But let's end it on...
yeah, okay.
What's a film that's been recorded under your supervision that you recommend?
In the state of New Jersey.
That you recommend people watch over your entire career?
Oh, geez.
Tough.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Because it doesn't mean that it's necessarily... Wow.
Doesn't even mean that it's like identifiable as New Jersey, right?
But I don't even know. I should know this, and I don't know if I do. I think I probably remember experiences more than the film, and I should know this. I should be able to tell you what was something that someone's made here that.
Well, fuck it. Just recommend.
Well,
recommend
so a movie I didn't work on, but I really love is a movie called Atlantic City that was made right before I started at the Film Commission. So Burt Lancaster and Susan Sarandon, about these two people. I think it's very indicative of Atlantic City. Atlantic City traps you. It traps you, and you try to get out of Atlantic City, but there's something about Atlantic City that it just keeps on pulling you back in, both a negative and a positive. And these two characters nominated for 8 Academy Awards. Wow. Louis Malle was the director, and so it's one of those classical films that I've really kind of loved, and it's just something about it's a character study, and I think it's really a very fun film.
Okay, so Atlantic City.
Yeah, Atlantic City, but I have to think about that. But that's a great question. Yeah, I should know that.
No problem. That's a good answer. I've never seen it. I've never been there.
You never been to Atlantic City?
Avoided it.
Well, I have to be careful with my friends in Atlantic City because I have a lot of friends down there. So Atlantic City is a little tough city. Yeah. I could extol on the impact of gambling down there, but I'm not going to.
Fair
but
enough.
If we'll go down, we can go down one weekend or go down one day during the week. I don't know. You've got a lot of things going on here.
Sure.
So, but it's a little different from what you may think it's going to be.
Yeah, I need to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. We good?
Oh, I'm fantastic.
Same. Well, good talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.
Intro and outro music by Dori Bavarsky and Mingja Chen. Hope you have a good week.